Greetings to all of the Stone Harbor Property Owners Association members. I would have liked to have said hello to all of you at the movie theater, but the present situation warrants that we hold our meeting online. We hope to convene again at the theater in September. Over the past few months, it has been a challenge to remain abreast of all of the changes that have taken place in the borough. Our messages have tried to keep members up to date as much as possible. Our agenda is set and coincides with recommendations made by you, the members, in a survey conducted in the early spring. The agenda consists of a sustainability presentation by our Wally Bishop, our Beach and Bay Committee Chairman. Wally's presentation will be followed by Mayor Judy Davies Dunhauer's State of the Borough Address. Judy will be introduced by Bob Smith, the borough's new administrator. We will try to keep the entire presentation between 45 minutes and an hour. Regarding questions and or comments that you may have, you will be able to pose these questions in replying to this online presentation. We will forward those questions to the appropriate parties so that they may answer, and will attempt to respond within 72 hours. So please write your questions and or comments down during the presentation. I hope that you find this meeting informative and hope to see everyone in September in a more collegial setting. Enjoy the presentations.
Welcome everyone to a presentation which has become a tradition at our last 5 years of members' meetings. That is a discussion on what it takes for us to be partners with the borough in the improvement of sustainability for the island in which our community resides, Stone Harbor on 7 Mile Island. As many of you may have seen over the years, if you have watched our presentations, we have developed a brand and a graphic, which is a four-legged stool which rests on a long-term, what we call a 10-year financial plan. Each of these legs of the stool are critical in sustaining this island to meet the challenges of what is occurring in the world around us. Water supply, beach protection, bay dredging and protection, and flood management. These are the four legs of our sustainability stool. The role of each of these legs are particularly important because they are integrated with each other. The water supply leg is critical, and it's not just about how we get our water, how safe is our water, but it has to do with as much as how we use our water and how we overuse our water and what we can do to conserve. Beach maintenance restoration is critical for a barrier island because we lose sand from our beaches every year as a result of storms, sea level rise, winds, and other naturally occurring phenomena. Bay dredging is something that occurs because most of what fills our channels and basins on the bay side of Stone Harbor comes from the marshes that surround us. Keeping them open and keeping the bay able to take tidal flows, stormwater away from the island are critical. And flood management. This is a leg we added 3 years ago. We have all started to observe in Stone Harbor when it rains or we have high winds or high tides, parts of our island flood. How we deal with this, how we harden our island to resist high tides, to get rainwater off of the island are critical in our flood management program. And as we've said before, all of these rest on a long-term financial plan that the borough must adopt to be able to provide the necessary funds to go forward with this program, our 10-year financial plan. So what are the challenges to sustainability on our island? 7 Mile Island is a barrier island. Barrier islands were never intended to be long-term geographic features of our coastline? Well, we have taken a 7-mile barrier island and we have now constructed $12.5 billion of assets. Our homes, our commercial areas, our island. Oceans are rising. We all know that. It's documented. It's measured. At the same time, the northeast part of North America, the land mass on the coast is sinking. This is as much a function of how the glaciers formed us as anything else. But particularly in the northeast part of the coast of New Jersey, where 70% of our drinking water comes from groundwater, the overuse of that groundwater is making the island sink even faster. We've all observed that in recent years we have more volatile weather patterns. We've had 3 significant floods in the last 5 years. Prior to that, we had 2 over the last 10 years, and the frequency in which these are occurring are mirroring the events that are attacking our island from Mother Nature. And then the overuse of the groundwater table, 75 to 80% of our water use goes to outside irrigation of lawns, plants, and other uses for the outside. The largest user, by the way, of outside irrigation is the borough of Stone Harbor. Another phenomenon which is occurring is we've hardened the island as we've redeveloped. Smaller houses have been torn down, larger houses built with larger roofs, more concrete areas. And so when it rains now, the runoff has increased significantly and contributes to the flooding. We have an ordinance in Stone Harbor that says you must leave 35% of your lot permeable, meaning the water can percolate into the ground and the shallow groundwater table underneath us. This has not been maintained. A recent survey showed we're less than 17% permeable. This contributes greatly to the flooding and the runoff, and will contribute greatly to millions of dollars of improvements we would have to make if we don't get a handle on runoff. Another issue which is key to us is the use of non-native plants and the increased use of grasses and turf. To keep a lawn green in Stone Harbor, it requires 2 to 3 times more water and fertilizer than it would back home. Stone Harbor rests on sand. The water drains quickly away and takes the fertilizer with it. It is a non-compatible planting for a barrier island. So what have we done in working with partners with the borough to improve our island sustainability? In 2015, SHPOA prepared a work plan which looked at how we could develop specific actions for each of the 4 legs of our stool. The plan called for a very strategic approach for how we move forward on each of these legs. First, we needed to monitor what was happening. Stockton University Coastal Research Center has been monitoring the sand losses from the beach for over a decade. We needed to apply that in more specific ways for each of the legs of the stool. We needed to develop operation and maintenance activities which were consistent with improvements in each of these areas. We needed to fund reserves, particularly for the beach sand replacement and the bay dredging. Historically, Stone Harbor had used long-term bonds and financing to do these maintenance activities. This is not sustainable. This would be like taking a mortgage out on your house to mow the lawn or to buy gas for your car. These are operation and maintenance activities and need to be funded by reserves. And since 2015, we have urged the borough to fund these reserves. We needed to come up with plans that identified the capital improvements and assets that we needed to build. We are not going to be able to remove runoff and stormwater from the island with the old gravity system that was put in place 50 years ago. We need to set aside the funding both annually for operation and maintenance and for the capital improvements that are necessary. SHPOA has also put its money where its mouth is. As many of you may know, annually, SHPOA picks a project and invests our members' money in something to improve the island. Some of the more well-known of these improvements are the clock that sits in front of Hoy's 5 and Dime on 96th Street, or the signs welcome you to Stone Harbor. Those were previous projects of the year from SHPOA. Here's a list of where we spent over $31,000 in the last 5 years. In 2016, we helped the borough install a new irrigation system, a water meter, and native plantings at the water tower site. The use of older irrigation systems and a lack of a water meter did not allow the borough to control its water usage, and the types of plantings that were being used were not sustainable for this island. In 2017, in cooperation with a technical writer, SHPOA put together a report on our water supply, where it comes from, what's the quality of it, how much are we using, and what are key actions for us to protect it and start conserving our water. As I said previously, this is not just about water supply. This is also about reducing the rate in which the island sinks. It also is reducing the amount of seawater that backs into the groundwater table that we use when we overdraft it in the summertime. In 2018, we worked with the borough in installing flood monitoring gauges in 14 locations throughout the island. We all can tell when it floods because we walk through the water. Was it caused by rain? Was it winds? Was it high tides? Was it a combination of those things? These flood gauges allow us to correlate flooding events at specific spots in the island with what events are causing them. In 2019, which was just finished this year, at the Water Tower Farmers Market parking lot, SHPOA installed a demonstration rain garden. The primary purpose of a rain garden, and we hope that all of you go by, we have educational plaques there for you can read about it, but the primary purpose of a rain garden is to reduce runoff from people's properties. We've talked about how we have a runoff problem. A rain garden collects the water off our roofs, driveways, and percolates it into the sand underneath our lots. We rest on a sand island. Not to utilize that exacerbates the runoff problem. The other thing it does is it usually can take out a portion of our lots that are landscaped with high water use plantings. It does have a secondary effect, depending on what plants are put in the garden, of reducing water usage, but its primary purpose is to reduce runoff. Each of us in Stone Harbor can move forward and have our own rain garden on our properties. And finally, this year, 2020, we're investing funds to come up with a brochure which will be available in hard copy or on the internet, which will give our homeowners ideas of what type of plants they should use at their houses. It will list plants that are not good for this island, that use too much water, and it'll provide you a list of plants and resources on the internet to go to help in how you landscape your lots. Let me talk now about specific legs of the stool. The first is beach replenishment and maintenance. As I mentioned, CRC, Stockton University Coastal Research, has been monitoring our beach and reporting to the Borough Council on the loss of sand that occurs primarily in the winter months from November through April. We get those reports and they help guide the scheduling of when we need to build our beach and our dunes. Our beaches and dunes are not just for recreation. They are critical in stopping high wave and wind storm events and preventing the flooding of the island. They serve a purpose for recreation, but they're primarily, in terms of sustainability, flood barriers. We've recommended that a fund reserve be set up. These are maintenance activities and should not be funded with long-term bonds. We need to have a reserve that collects $2 to $5 million every 3 years. The borough has moved forward with a new portion of our tax to fund the reserves, but at a level of only $349,000 a year. This needs to be increased. Something that Stone Harbor doesn't do, but areas like Avalon and Sea Isle do, is they have annual maintenance where they reallocate sand among their beaches. Stone Harbor tends to lose a majority of its sand in the beaches from 96th down to 111th Street, and it tends to accumulate sand in other beaches. Reallocation of those sands in years between major renourishment projects with the Army Corps of Engineers can help protect the dunes and also maintains a recreational beach. Critical to us, though, is the renourishment we do about every 3 years. Hereford's Inlet to the south has been the historical source of our sand for rebuilding our beaches. This was stopped 3 years ago by a regulation that the federal government cited as not being followed. We were forced in our last renourishment to pump sand all the way from Townsend's Inlet up above Avalon. There's not enough sand at Townsend's Inlet to serve both Avalon and Stone Harbor's needs. The costs are higher. Additionally, we used a state grant to get some sand from Hereford's Inlet, but this is a very significant cost item, as when the Corps of Engineers rebuilds our beach, we're responsible for 20 cents on the dollar. $10 million to rebuild our beach, we pay $2 million. When the state pumps sand, we are responsible for 50 cents on the dollar. And when we had to use sand from Hereford's Inlet, it cost us 2.5 times more than it would have historically under the federal government. Now that Hereford's Inlet has been moved forward by the Secretary of the Interior, it is time to get the regulations and permits in place for our next renourishment. The same program in terms of monitoring we need in place on the bay and the basin side. Coastal Research Center, since our last dredging, which occurred almost 3 years ago, has been monitoring the infill rate of sediment as it migrates from the marshes. It's now showing that it's time for us to do and schedule a bay and basin maintenance dredging, something which would be much smaller if we do it every 3 to 5 years than waiting for 10 years as we did last time, and it cost us over $11 million. Once again, we need a fund reserved for this at a $500,000 to $750,000 a year. There has been a portion, as I referred to on the beach, of a tax increment that will contribute $350,000, but that is not enough. We need to start preparing the bid package and use lessons that we learned from the 2018-2017 dredging, and SHPOA sent a letter recommending things that could be improved in this next dredging. We are moving forward with the monitoring at the right locations in the bay, and SHPOA has recommended where those should be, but they are showing that it is now time for us to get ready for the next dredging. Our third leg of the stool is water supply and water conservation. These go hand in hand. When SHPOA prepared a report on the source of water for the island, our use of that water, the reliability, it also recommended future actions to reduce water use and sustain the water supply that we have for the long term. Our findings were outside irrigation is the largest use of water on the island. We found that 18 coastal communities are drawing water out of our groundwater basin called the Atlantic City 800 and contribute to the overdraft. In the summertime, the groundwater table is drawn down 8 to 15 feet. This causes the island to sink at a faster rate, and it allows the seawater to back up into our drinking water and increase the salinity. Stone Harbor is allocated a portion of this basin, and if it exceeds its usage, we are fined. Stone Harbor has been fined for exceeding its usage of the groundwater table. The recommended actions that we believe are necessary to get a handle on our water supply usage are as follows. Use of plants, turfs, grasses that are non-native, require large uses of water, should be banned from the island. A water budget should be established for each homeowner's outside water use. That allows every homeowner to plant what they want within an allocated amount of water that does not contribute to the overdraft. Third-party contractors on the island do much of our maintenance. They consistently increase the timers for the irrigation They consistently disable soil moisture probes, which are to stop irrigation when it's raining, because they're afraid that the grass won't be green and the plants won't be lush. They must be educated on their role in this problem. Grass strips and irrigation of plantings between the curb and the sidewalk need to be eliminated. Many of us have walked around town during a rainstorm or a windy day and watched the irrigation of the streets and the sidewalks from these plantings. Let me turn our attention now to the fourth leg of the stool, which is flood management. It's clear to people that more and more flooding is occurring at higher frequencies due to tides, storms, and rainfall. The borough made a major step forward with its new bulkhead ordinance requiring that all bulkheads on the bayside be raised to 8 feet over a very specific timeline. There are 330 bulkheads on the bayside, and 10% of those are causing 90% of the flooding currently. That is because of the height is too low or they have become in disrepair. These need to be moved forward as quickly as possible to eliminate a major cause of flooding. The borough has been working on a master plan for guiding the improvements that are going to be needed in the future. This could be over $50 million in capital improvements. This effort is stalled and needs to move forward to help provide the roadmap for what we need to do. SHPOA in 2017 wrote a letter to the borough which recommended several actions that the borough needed to take to make sure that this master plan and our efforts were strategic and well thought out. We recommended that experts be brought in and a peer review to look at the plan. We needed to upgrade our storm drain system. We needed to start developing stormwater pump stations to get the water off the island, as is currently done in Avalon. We need to increase the permeability of the island with such things as rain gardens, and new homeowners need to be required to install French drains, catchment basins, and rain gardens. Stone Harbor has sent a letter every year since then setting priorities for the Borough Council to consider that they can focus on in that fiscal year. Our first stormwater pump station needs to begin construction this year. It is behind schedule, and its $2.5 million state grant could be jeopardized if we don't move forward. This is a list of future actions that all of us can take in partnership with the borough or on our own to improve our island's sustainability. We must control storm runoff from our properties. There are very many tools that are available to us that are cost effective that could help greatly in reducing stormwater flooding and the amount of money we'll spend at pumping from the island. The borough must set standards and regulations limiting runoff. Swimming pools and driveways and paved areas are not permeable. We need to get to the 35% permeability. The survey of beach towns in New Jersey showed Stone Harbor at 17%, which was one of the lowest of those surveyed. Runoff from our property is driving fiscal improvements and expenditures that may not be necessary if we get a handle on this. We can all move forward with the rain gardens as a feature of our landscaping. We can all move forward with stormwater vaults and French drains to reduce runoff. And irrigated areas like turf and grasses are quicker to release storm runoff because they're kept wet so they can stay green. They are not naturally permeable when they're kept saturated. Minimize turf so we can save water and reduce runoff. Here is an example of a home in Stone Harbor has turned their entire front property into a rain garden using sustainable plants. It's attractive and it helps protect the island from excess runoff. Stone Harbor wants to be a proactive partner with the borough. This is a list of specific actions we have taken as the Board of Trustees to protect our homes and improve sustainability starting in 2016 when we submitted our first master plan for the four legs of the stool. In each of the subsequent years, we have sent a letter to the council earmarking specific actions and accomplishments that need to take place in each of those fiscal years. We have spent $31,000 on projects of the year to not only improve our data collection, education of our members, and looking at sustainable approaches for how we can improve on the island. These are things that each of you should become aware of. They're on the website and they can help in future actions. So each of us has a responsibility, and this should be our checklist for the coming years. Water use reduction and permeability of our lots are the two actions each of us can take as homeowners that do not require the borough to be a partner. We can do this on our own, and we should. So the bottom line for each and every one of us as homeowners is these are our homes, these are our assets, these are our property values, and the actions that we're recommending are what are necessary to preserve our property values and the quality of life that we all come to love here at Stone Harbor. Several communities to our north, because of excess flooding, have seen 20 to 30% property devaluation. We need to make sure that we do not do that. We can't stop the oceans from rising, but we can affect the rate of the ocean rise, and we can affect how we manage their impacts on our island. Homeowners control how much water we use and our runoff. Property owners have a say in where our taxes are spent. We have $125 million of estimated investment we need to make on this island over the next 15 years to protect our sustainability. What are our priorities? SHPOA thinks that we have identified a program which identifies those. Now we need to work as partners with the borough to make sure this gets done. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your attention. Take care.
Hi, good morning. My name's Bob Smith, and I'm the Borough Administrator. I want to first say thank you to SHPOA for the opportunity to introduce myself, and that's precisely what I was asked to do this morning, is to introduce myself, go over my background, and maybe talk about some issues that I believe are important to the borough. And then finally, to have the opportunity to introduce the mayor, who will broaden the presentation and talk much more about issues and current events. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to going through this presentation. My life in government actually began before I graduated college. I'm a graduate of Rutgers University in New Brunswick. And my senior year, I took the opportunity to do an internship in Washington, D.C., which eventually led to a paid full-time position with a congressman who was representing the 1st District in South Jersey. And with that internship, that provided a lot of opportunities, and it opened up a lot of doors, and it allowed me to have my first introduction into government. I think it was absolutely invaluable to have had that experience. I was of the opinion that advancement in government and politics was related to having a law degree, and to a certain extent that's very true. I did in fact pursue a law degree. I was admitted to the bar in 1994. I have practiced in the area of open space acquisition, Pinelands regulations, New Jersey DEP regulations. I've also had exposure to capital finance as well as other areas of law, and I find that this has been very helpful, and I know that it will serve the interests of the Borough of Stone Harbor and its residents and homeowners. Part of my resume involves running for elective office myself. I had the opportunity to run for freeholder in 1998. I was seated as a Gloucester County freeholder, and then 2 years later I ran for the Assembly, and I was successful in the 4th Legislative District. Served in that capacity for 6 years. For the 6 years I was chairman of Natural Resources, and I feel that that's going to have a very direct benefit for the Borough of Stone Harbor. I also believe that having sat in office myself allows me to better serve the governing body in Stone Harbor or wherever I have served in the past, because I have a better understanding of what elected officials think. I look at slogans as promises, or I believe that they should be. And so the borough has a slogan, it's called the Seashore at its best. And I believe that's a promise that's being made to the visitors and the residents of Stone Harbor. That being the case, I thought it was very important to pictorially represent the issues where I think we need to concentrate. Beach and Bay, environmental stewardship, making sure that our infrastructure is intact, and also the area of charisma. Charisma is that intangible, it's that feeling of attractiveness that you get when you drive over the 96 bridge and you roll into the borough. It's that feeling, it's charisma, it's attractiveness. We need to concentrate on maintaining that and making it better. Always at the center of our consideration is budgeting. What does it mean for the taxpayers of the borough? We cannot advance any of these issues and be the best, in my opinion, unless we're keeping a close eye on the budget. And of course, we have those other issues that we need to concentrate on as borough administrators, and that is being transparent. And what that means is everything that we do needs to be done in sunlight. It needs to be done in front of all stakeholders. And when we do that, we can have full engagement. And full engagement is important because we need to hear a variety of opinions in order for us to make decisions which are sound. The other area is early adoption, as well as best practices. Best practices is a set of standards that is set down by the state. We do adhere to that. It's almost a requirement. But early adoption is something that I believe is important, because what makes Stone Harbor special in many respects is that we stand out. We're early adopters in good ways. And so I'm hoping that over time we can expand upon this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about issues with the residents and with SHPOA. So I just had to use this picture of the mayor. I had the opportunity to choose between 3 or 4, and then somebody had showed me this picture, and I just thought it was absolutely appropriate, because every once in a while you just need to laugh. And when I saw the picture, I smiled and I started laughing. Look, being a mayor is a very serious job, and Judy is a very serious person. She puts in a lot of time and hard work, but at the same time she's also fun-loving and caring and compassionate. And I think that's important when we look to our elected officials. There's just really one point, and there's so many I can make, but there's one point that I want to make. If you have any question about her dedication and competence, I just want to point one thing, and that is she's the first mayor in the state of New Jersey, 464 municipalities, to achieve a certification by the New Jersey League of Municipalities as a qualified elected official. #1 in the state. She got it done. She volunteered her time above and beyond her work and her mayoral duties to achieve that recognition. So at this time, it's my pleasure and it's my honor to introduce the mayor, and I know she has a very interesting presentation today.
Greetings, SHPOA members, and welcome to the Mayor's Office. That's where, for obvious reasons, I'm doing this year's presentation. I do miss seeing everybody like we have been doing in the past couple of years at the movie theater, and hopefully sooner than later we will all be together again in person. And just for the record, I have not forgiven Mr. Smith for using that picture in his introduction of me, and I shall find a way to get him back. You can rest assured of that. So, what are we going to talk about in this year's presentation? As you can see in the slide, we're going to talk about the following topics and projects that the borough is presently engaged in. The stormwater pump in the 200 block of 94th Street, the sanitary sewer pump in the 200 block of 93rd Street, the 2019 and 2020 road programs, the 2020 budget, update on the Beach Patrol building. We're going to talk about the Villa Maria, the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and then a slide that I call COVID-19, the borough response. So first up, we have the stormwater pump station, which is going to be located in the 300 block of 93rd Street on the north side, close to 3rd Avenue. I first presented the stormwater pump station to SHPOA in September of 2018. This pump station is part of flood mitigation efforts of the Borough of Stone Harbor. As all of you are well aware, flood mitigation is a top priority for the borough. Now, initially, this pump station was going to be coupled with a sanitary sewer pump at the same location. We have since split the two projects, and we have moved the sanitary sewer to the 200 block of 94th Street, and the stormwater pump station will be remaining in the 300 block of 93rd Street. What you have in front of you is an architectural rendering of what that pump house is going to look like. We asked the engineer doing this project, Mott McDonald, to make sure that that pump house fit in to that area, that street, and that it did not look like a utility building, but rather looked like a house that was just another property on that neighborhood, or in that neighborhood. And as you can see, they did a good job. So on your left, you can see the front and back of the building, and on the right, you can see all four sides of the building. So what is the timeline on this pump station? This is slated to begin in the fall of this year, so the fall of 2020. This project cannot begin until the existing sanitary sewer pump is taken offline. And the existing sanitary sewer pump cannot be taken offline until the new sanitary sewer pump is completed. So that completion is scheduled for this November. So once that is completed, this project will begin. And this project is slated to be approximately 2 years long. So it will begin in the fall of 2020 and be completed in the fall of 2022. The other half of this project that I referenced, the sanitary sewer pump station, has been moving along. It was, again, I originally reported on this to you folks in 2018. So this has been moved to the 200 block of 94th Street. You can see in that light blue box exactly where this is located. It's kind of tucked back on a lot there that is just west of the 94th Street and 2nd Avenue parking lot. So the completion for this is November of this year. So you can see what has been completed through the red bubbles and through the red dots along 94th Street and then to 3rd Avenue. And you can see what still remains to be done is in that neon green. This thing, the best news I can give you about this project is it is coming in both on time and under budget. The 2019 road program. These bubbles will indicate what stage a particular street is on. The red indicates that streets have been completed, and the light blue indicates that the streets are to be completed in the fall. So completed so far is the 300 block of 87th Street, the 200 and 300 block of 88th Street, the 200 block of 90th Street, and the 100 block of 105th Street. Now in the fall, the other streets in that light blue will be completed, and they are the 200 block of 89th Street, the 200 block of 91st Street, and the 200 block of 118th Street. And that'll move right into the 2020 road program. So the 2020 road program, at this point, the borough engineer has completed the mapping and is in the design phase. So as you can see, this program will run concurrently with the ending of the 2019 road program. So those blocks that we just discussed that will be finished in the fall, they'll be finished, and then we will move into the 2020 road program. And you can see right here the list of those streets. The 2020 budget. I'll first call your attention to the tax rate from 2019 to 2020, the third section down. The tax rate has gone up 1.7 cents, and the overall amount of money added to the budget is $932,000. So where is that $932,000 going? $590,000 of that is going towards dedicated funds to beach replenishment and to back bay dredge and management. These are two dedicated funds that the borough committed to a couple years ago to build these funds up, so when they are needed to maintenance the bay or to maintenance the beach, we do not have to borrow money. We would have a dedicated fund to handle that maintenance. The remaining $330,000 is predominantly for various departments' salaries and wages. A large portion of this, $114,846, is an increase to the lifeguard salaries and wages. We found that we were having some difficulty retaining quality guards and drawing quality young people to take these jobs as lifeguards. We thought we needed to be more competitive as far as what we were going to pay them. It seems to have worked, as this year we have more people, more young people, have applied to be lifeguards here in Stone Harbor than prior years. To date, every single one of our listed beaches as protected swimming beaches are already open and guarded. An additional $100,000 of this salaries and wages has gone to what is referred to as aid to the rescue squad. So this is money that pays for EMTs who are stationed at the firehouse 24 hours a day. The remainder, $68,750, goes towards various departments within the Department of Public Works. So overall, that salary increases was $283,596. The remaining increases is a handful of smaller projects or smaller things, purchases that we did not want to include in the capital budget. The Beach Patrol building. We first saw the Beach Patrol building in last September's presentation. And you'll see what I'm including here is the rendering from 2019. If you remember when I did first present this last year, I warned everybody not to have sticker shock. This was the first blush, the first rendering, and I was sharing it with SHPOA following the initial presentation made to council and the public in August at a council meeting. We are continuing to discuss this building, and we are continuing to try to figure out the best way to meet two objectives, which I have put in the top of the slide. We're trying to make something that is not only functional, but is also befitting of this Stone Harbor community. One way to look at this is that area, that 95th Street beach, the pavilion, the restrooms, the Beach Patrol headquarters, that's the gateway to our beach. And this building needs to be not only functional, but it also needs to be something that we can be proud of. This should be a gateway that we are proud of. I noted some things you can tell I've color-coded them for you. So the restrooms, you'll see it noted $460,000 was included in the original pricing for new restrooms there at the 95th Street Beach. We've replaced that $460,000 with a $100,000 modular unit, and that will be arriving soon. In addition, we've removed the pergolas, and that's that $60,000 that you can see. And then I'll call your attention to the purple figure, the 2.4, and that is the cost for the Beach Patrol headquarters itself. We're looking to reduce that cost, and it is presently under discussion. Now, I would encourage you to tune in to the next council meeting, which is one week from today. Today being the 9th of June, it is the 16th of June, and our meetings are on Zoom. This building and whatever changes we would like to make or feel we need to make are going to be discussed in the work session. There should be some discussion on maybe doing a modular, pros and cons of that. It is still under discussion. So I don't have anything definitive for you on this project other than we have applied for the CAFRA permits, and we have also sent certified mailing notices to those who live within 200 feet of the building that this project is on the horizon. So it is still under discussion, and again, I encourage you to listen in on the council meeting, and we would love to hear from you, and you'll hear from our engineer, and we'll see what changes are on the horizon for this project. The Villa Maria, Retreat House of the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. When asked to do this presentation, one of the things that the president, Bob Tramella, asked of me was to give the membership an update on the progress of this project. I do not have a lot of information on it. I'll share with you what I do have, and that is that the sisters have hired a project manager and an architect, and are moving forward with the project. They have submitted their CAFRA permit to the New Jersey DEP in the beginning of April. They have not made formal application yet to either of the land use boards here in Stone Harbor, and those land use boards are the Planning Board and the Zoning Board. We do not know exactly what areas will be sold and what their timeline is. The one thing that I can share with you is that we are thrilled. When I say we, I mean the governing body, the Borough of Stone Harbor, as I'm sure each and every one of you are thrilled, that the sisters decided that they wanted to continue to be a part of our community. We look forward to seeing their congregation here year-round. When they do have their new building, it'll be something that they can get more use out of, and they will be more of a presence here in Stone Harbor. We're just so happy that they didn't decide to completely sell everything that they owned here in town. It is bittersweet in that this beautiful building is coming down. However, we are happy that we're going to have even a more of a presence of the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart here in town on that year-round basis. And I also would like to share with you that Sister James, who is the unofficial mayor of Stone Harbor, and it was very dear to all of us, is doing very well. She recently went to the doctor and has been given a full, clean bill of health. She was really very happy to share that with me. And I asked her if I could share that with all of you. And of course, she said yes. And she's physically doing great. And she's on this project, as I'm sure you all know, Sister would be. And she looks forward to the summer, seeing all of you guys, many benefactors and friends, and so on and so forth. And Sister is always appreciative and always expresses that appreciation for the support that the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary have received in this community for so many years. COVID-19, the borough response. This has been a spring like no other here in the borough of Stone Harbor, just as I'm sure it has been a spring like no other in your hometowns. There's so much to say under this heading. Not all of you viewing this presentation are New Jersey residents, so I cannot be sure you are aware of our particular state's response. We continue to move further and further into the reopening phase. I will describe what you can expect to experience here in Stone Harbor at this point. And as I'm sure you are familiar in your own hometown, things change very quickly. First, I encourage all of you to go to our borough website for information. In March, we posted a page of frequently asked questions, and our Director of Tourism and Public Information, Jenny Olson, has done an outstanding job keeping that link updated with current information. On the website, you will see a list of events that have been canceled as well as revised schedules. Unfortunately, most of our traditional summer events have been canceled. Yes, this is going to be a summer like no other. However, together we will make it a special one, and again, memories will be made, and that Stone Harbor life we all cherish will be enjoyed. So what can you expect? Our beaches are open for all activities, sitting, bathing, sunning, etc. Are masks required on the beach? No, they are not. Masks are strongly encouraged should you find yourself in any situation here within the borough where it is impossible for you to practice social distancing. As far as beaches, the governor mandated capacity management protocols be put into place in order to control overcrowding at the beach. Requiring beach tags is a form of capacity management. To lessen the number of folks on our most crowded beaches, 94th to 96th, we've closed one of the municipal parking lots. The pavilion at 95th Street is open to handicapped persons only. We are continuing to monitor the 123rd Street parking lot and beach and the 80th to 82nd Street beaches and parking area to see if we need to put in any type of capacity management protocols there. Borough Hall is open to the public, but by appointment only. Information on how to make an appointment and the protocols you'll need to follow are on our website. Face coverings are required while in Borough Hall. The front door will remain locked. Anyone coming in will be required to use the 95th Street entrance. Our business community sadly has been struggling since this situation began. Non-essential businesses were ordered to close on March 21st. On that same date, restaurants were ordered to do takeout only. Businesses may now open on June 15th. On that date, outdoor dining may begin as well. In the state of New Jersey, at this point, no indoor dining is permitted. The borough approved outdoor retail sales for non-essential businesses on Tuesday, June 2nd. Stores may put items for sale outside their stores through June 14th. However, no one can enter the stores. This is providing some relief for our merchants. On June 2nd, we also passed an outdoor dining ordinance that restaurants will be able to take advantage of starting on June 15th. For this summer alone, you may see some unorthodox positioning of tables outside. What can you expect at the Recreation Department? This area too is evolving. Please go to the Recreation website, stoneharborrecreation.com, for updated information on our programming. We are happy to be able to offer some of our most popular activities and will be adding more as permitted by the state. We are operating under state-imposed protocols that restrict the number of people who may gather at one time. Reservations and contactless payment are required for our programs. The rec buildings themselves are not open to the public. And again, this continues to evolve. We're hoping that we can offer more and more activities as the weeks go by. And what can you expect from Public Works? In the last 2 weeks, we've been asking our residents, visitors, and business owners to be patient with the Department of Public Works as they've been facing challenges filling seasonal positions and keeping up with not only the increased workload that accompanies increased occupancy in town, but also the challenge associated with incorporating COVID-19 restrictions in their daily tasks. For the past several weeks, trash collection had been a struggle. The Director of Public Works is confident this issue will be addressed quickly, hopefully in the next few days. The Director of Public Works, Grant Russ, has done a remarkable job leading his department and providing essential services since this crisis began. The leadership and response from our public safety team has been remarkable throughout this crisis. I can assure you that this town could not be in better hands. I'll give a shout out here to our Police Chief, Tom Shutta, EMS and Fire Chief, Roger Stanford, Beach Patrol Captain, Sandy Basacco, and Office of Emergency Management Coordinator, Jonathan J.T. Lacose. Another big shout out needs to go to our Administrator, Bob Smith. He has been invaluable in his leadership, complemented and completed a phenomenal team. I'd like to share with you a text that Bob sent to me on March 2nd, 39 days into his job as Borough Administrator. This is the text he sent to me. Let's be super proactive and make plans for continuing our work and mission if and when virus reaches us. I assume you have a good relationship with the county health officer. Washington State shutting down some schools. A team of public safety officials, DPW management, Bob and I quickly met with the county health department and set about the task of preparing. I'm proud to say that we were ahead of the game. To date, Stone Harbor has had one reported case of the virus. As this slide indicates, this year's beach opening was a beach opening like no other. I am happy to say that Beach Patrol Captain Sandy Basacco and I were able to continue the tradition of entering the chilly Atlantic and unlocking the ocean to start a new summer season. As our town starts to fill up with seasonal residents and visitors, we ask that everyone please show kindness and respect to all. These are challenging and changing times, and this can cause anxiety and fear among our friends and neighbors. Please be considerate of others and carry a mask with you at all times, and wear it if you cannot maintain a 6-foot distance. We are all in this together, and we ask that each of you please help us create an atmosphere of kindness and compassion in Stone Harbor this summer. Welcome back to all of you. Have a healthy, fun, and memorable summer. I look forward to seeing you all.